What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. My name's Kyle, aka Prince Kyle, don't forget it. And I have an Instagram as well as a TikTok where I share my female to male transition as well as give tips to anybody that would like to hear about it. But first, I wanted to say I hope everybody had an amazing Thanksgiving. Surprisingly, I actually had a really good one. I don't know if it's because I made a TikTok about this, but I didn't get misgendered not one time the whole entire night. And I made a TikTok talking about how this always happens to me. So either somebody saw my TikTok or they're finally getting it and they're finally understanding. I have a beard. I'm a man. I'm just kidding. That doesn't make you a man. But I don't know. I don't know what it is that made it click, but I didn't get misgendered at all. So I'm taking that as a blessing and a step forward. So I hope you guys had an amazing Thanksgiving as well. Today, what I wanted to talk about, 5 things to consider before transitioning to minimize your chances of regret. Now, before we get into it, for some reason I'm a little anxious, so we need some CBD.
Eventually.
Stupid child-proof. Citrusy. I don't recommend if you're under 18. Without further ado, let's hop into it. I get so many questions around how I knew I was transgender, what made me take the steps to do the things I did for my transition. It's different for every single person. I made a video or two about the ways that I knew I was trans, but in all reality, let's be real, everyone's story is different, everybody's timeline is different, and everybody finds themselves in a different way. But I am here to tell you and share with you 5 things to consider before you make that decision that you are trans, or before you make that decision to go through with your physical transition. Number 1, you need to educate yourself on the topic. You need to know what it means to be transgender. You need to know the definition behind female to male, male to female, non-binary, trans-masculine, like all of those little nitty-gritty definitions and terms that have to do with the umbrella term trans. Because if you're going into your transition or you are coming out as transgender, like, I don't mean to sound like a douchebag when I say this, but like, if you're transgender, you should want to learn everything about it because you want to make sure 110% that you are what this term is describing. And it's just very important to understand the terminology in general. So I really, really recommend educating yourself about every little piece of everything, because it's one thing to know everything in regards to being transgender. It's another to just go on TikTok, see an influencer who may be your idol or role model, or you think that they look good, and saying, oh, they look kind of cool, like I feel like I want to do this. Like, it's 2 different things. Number 2, understanding what happens during the physical transition and during HRT. Now, this is important because I understand that not everybody physically transitions when they're transgender, because that is not what makes or breaks you being trans. You don't have to go through any hormone replacement therapy. You don't have to go on hormone blockers, and you certainly don't have to have any surgeries. But it is still very important to understand what happens when you do go through those, because you never know if you are going to transition and then later in life you may be more dysphoric than you thought you were from the beginning, and now you're thinking about surgery options and hormone replacement options. You want to know before you even consider just what actually happens to you during this process, because that could make or break decisions too. It's the reality of it. Well, that's really obnoxious. Someone really has to have a fire right now while I'm making this video. Let me know in the comments, you know that alarm that goes off whenever there's like a local fire and the fire trucks are starting to come out, and it makes like a really loud town siren noise where it sounds like we're about to go into, it sounds like the purge. That's what it sounds like right now outside. Number 3, I think, is the most important out of every single one that I'm going to list today, and that is speaking with a therapist. Now, most often than not, doctors recommend you to go see a therapist anyway before you can even start anything physical. I believe it's because it's extremely important. You should be talking to someone that is not family and friends, because family and friends come with biased opinions. A lot of times, family specifically, they say, oh, I know you well enough to know that you're making the wrong choice, or I birthed you, I know my son, I know my daughter, you're not really a man, you're not really a woman, you just think you're going through something, or you saw something on TV. They come with very biased opinions. So with a therapist, they are literally certified to do what they do, which is listen and hear you out on how you feel about however you're feeling. So when it comes to a therapist, they come with no biased opinion, and they're there to help you make whatever decision you want to make without forcing it on you. Now, number 4, not everybody's going to agree with me on this, but I think it's extremely important. A lot of you guys have probably seen how many detransition stories are coming out online, and I actually enjoy them because I think they're important. I think they're important because we see so much of like trans success stories and not enough of, okay, well, I made this decision and it's actually not accurate, I'm not transgender. There's not a lot of stories in that direction, and I know some of you guys are thinking, well, if I'm saying I'm trans, why would I watch a detransition story? Well, the reason that is because you want to hear the outlier side of the topic. You want to hear the side that isn't as popular than the side that's being promoted all over the internet. And the reason that's important is because, say you are thinking about transitioning and you want to hear more about like stories in general, wouldn't you want to hear about people who may not have made the right decision and why that is? Because who knows, now that you're listening to that detransition story, you may find out, wow, like I actually relate to this person a lot more than I do with the person who transitioned. I actually relate to this person who transitioned because they were lacking confidence, or they felt as though, I don't know, I can't speak for a detransitioner, but you get the gist. Like, you could relate more with a detransition story and why they transitioned and then realize like they shouldn't have done it just because of those reasons, more than you could relate to somebody who transitioned and is now enjoying their life being transgender because that is their identity, versus something that they just did because something happened in their life that made them feel that they should transition to the opposite gender. And then number 5, the last but not least, find the people who are going to love you regardless of your transition. You want people who are going to guide you and help you through your transition, because it makes that transition process that much easier. If you got people who are hating on you and hating everything that you do because you're trans, your transition is going to be very hard. I'm going to be transparent with you. It's not going to be easy. And I'm not saying it's easy for people who have loving families. It still comes with hardships, but it is a lot easier when you have support behind you. And I have seen some detransition stories where they detransition not because they're not trans, but because they feel as though it's a lot easier to just go back living how they were to make their family happy than it is to live their authentic self and be who they have always been and have to worry about being disowned. So always remember, family does not mean blood, blood does not mean family. So if you do have a hard time finding the family that'll accept you, you can always find family elsewhere that's not blood. You can find really close friends, or just anyone who is going to love you regardless and who maybe will take you in, or who will help you go to your doctor's appointments and stuff like that. You want to find the family before you transition, and I'm not saying you have to. Who am I to tell anyone how they have to go about their transition? But ideally, it would be smarter to find the people that are going to love you throughout it before you transition, because having a horror story of a transition can lead people in the path to detransition and go back to a person that they didn't even feel that they were. Find the family first, because I promise once you have the family, like, transitioning can be such a beautiful thing, and I'm walking proof of it. I found my family. I found a lot of blood family, and I found a lot of non-blood family who support me throughout the whole thing, and they made my transition a lot easier. I can't imagine how much harder it would have been if I didn't find the family that would accept me as I am. So those are the 5 things that I think are very, very important to keep in mind before you transition. I do hope this video helped somebody out there if you do see this. If you did like it, please like, comment, subscribe. We are almost to 40,000 subscribers, like 40,000, and then we're gonna be at 50. Let me not get ahead of myself, but we're almost at 40,000 subscribers, and it's thanks to everybody who is consistent on my channel, especially my YouTube shorts. My YouTube shorts do better than my regular channel, but I am trying to work on my progress with my regular channel. As always, Much love. Peace.